All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. It's 2 minutes after 6:30. Thank you all for joining us on our November Cole Neighborhood Association meeting. I've got a couple other people to admit here. So there aren't really any major announcements this month, other than obviously the Greenway's opening, and the city is here to talk about it. We're going to jump right into the crime report. Officer Ruiz, who typically does the crime report, is not available tonight, but here in her place is Officer Murray.
This is Officer Murray. Unfortunately, I got this at the last minute, so I don't have any updated crime stats. But from my understanding, from the brief moment I've had a chance to talk to Officer Ruiz, nothing has really changed, and there's nothing really major to be concerned with in the neighborhood. So that's basically all I have. Just to know, just a side note, I'm the homeless outreach officer. So if you have any questions regarding that, feel free to ask at any time. So other than that, I have no other updates. Anybody have any questions regarding what I specialize in?
I don't, but I have another question for you.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So my name is Marisol. My car was broken in on the 15th of October and it was stolen. They found it a couple of days early. My question is, why don't they take prints off the cars to see who stole the car?
Every crime is different. We used to be at one point where we would print every vehicle that was stolen. Then it became a dollar issue where everything was cost efficient. Now they look at certain criteria. So based on when the officer get there, where the car was found, the condition it was found in, whether it was dusty, whether it had been raining, those things dictate whether or not he would call to have a vehicle printed. Every vehicle don't get printed anymore, so I can't speak on your particular details unless I speak to that officer and get his specific reasons why he didn't print your vehicle.
So it's Officer Miller. I had talked to him, and he said they didn't print it because you don't do that no more.
That's not the standard answer.
It was stolen.
Where was it stolen from?
34th and Marion.
Okay, and where was it located?
In front of my house. It was located on 33rd and Columbine.
Okay, well, I have to speak to Officer Miller, and I will get with him and see could I find out why he didn't have it printed, because that answer for we don't print vehicles no more is not correct. We print them based on the circumstance in which they're located. So it's a crime by crime incident. It's not an overall. We print everyone and we don't print everyone. It's based on each individual occurrence.
Okay, my understanding when I talked to him is because it wasn't involving the crime. That's what he explained to me.
Okay, so that might be why it was just a stolen. Was it a lot of damage to your vehicle?
Yeah, I saw it to junkyard. It wasn't fixable anymore.
Okay. I didn't understand. You say it was a lot of damage done to your vehicle?
Yes.
Had it snowed or anything since you found your vehicle, or while your vehicle was missing?
No.
Okay, well, I have to speak to him to find out why. I was just asking general question to possibly get a quick answer for you, but without speaking with him, I can't answer that, and because I don't want to give you no misinformation.
Okay.
If I don't know, I would tell you I don't know. And right now, I don't know.
All right, thank you, sir. Are there any other questions for DPD? Feel free also, if you don't have the ability to ask on video, you should be able to send a message through the chat function.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. So if there aren't any other DPD related questions, I'm going to give it 1 second just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay, well then we're going to jump into our first presentation. We have Happy Haynes here, Executive Director of Denver Parks and Recreation, to talk about the opening of the Greenway. I'm sure that's what most of you are here for. And I'll stop my screen share so you can take over, Happy.
Thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here, and I'm joined by some colleagues, all of whom know more about this project than I do. So I'll give you a quick update, and then if you have questions, you can ask them. How about that? No, I'll be happy to answer what I can, and then we'll call upon our colleagues. Oh, My machine is making noise right at the moment. Ah. All right, let's see if I can screen share. This is, alrighty. Everybody seeing the screen? It says November 2020 updates, 39th Greenway. Awesome. All right, so let me move through this. First of all, I think it's appropriate to start with a very big thank you for from the Cole neighborhood, from the residents adjacent to this Greenway project. We couldn't have done this project without your involvement, and it was complex, I know, challenging, and all of you stuck with us throughout the process, pushed us when we needed to be, and really provided just invaluable input and support and ideas about how to get this done. So can't thank you enough. And that's on behalf of our entire project team. So just a little quick summary, sort of overarching view. This project was part of our what we call our P2P, Platte to Park Hill program. Involved several large projects within the overall program. And just as a reminder, we had a number of goals to achieve by undertaking this massive project. First and foremost, it was to reduce flooding in a number of neighborhoods, and I think Cole was right in the heart of that, to really try to benefit those neighborhoods that had experienced much flooding in the past. And in the process of doing so, also to integrate the infrastructure that would come from the work to reduce flooding, but also gain water quality benefits for this stormwater, which very near the Cole neighborhood, just less than a mile or two, spills into the South Platte River. And so in the interest of all of us in the Denver metropolitan area and beyond, trying to gain some water quality benefits for the water that we all rely on for a variety of purposes was an important part of the program's goals. We wanted, I think equally to those environmental goals, we wanted to provide amenities to the neighborhood. And this is a neighborhood, and I can tell you from the Parks and Recreation perspective, this particular area is what we would identify as an area in need of parks. We have a standard that says that everyone should live within a 10-minute walk or roll of a quality neighborhood park or trail. And much of the Cole neighborhood and the neighborhood surrounding this Greenway were outside of that 10-minute walk standard. So it was a very, very high priority goal for us to add some neighborhood park amenities. Also to improve connectivity through the neighborhood. We all know that 39th was sort of from a mobility perspective, more of a no man's land than anything else. And so it really provided an opportunity for us to provide greater connectivity for the neighborhood as well. And then you'll see in the middle picture on the bottom is the photo of the City Park Golf Course where one of the projects occurred. And so not only were we able to add the open space along the 39th Avenue channel, but we were also able to enhance the existing recreational asset we had at City Park Golf Course. So just again, an overview of the entire program. And then this is old news for so many of you who were involved from day one. But in the process of undertaking this large P2P project, we engaged in over 250 various public and stakeholder meetings. A number of you participated, and I just want to lift up those who participated in our design working groups. I hope the next time somebody from the city calls and asks you to consider a design working group, you won't run away, knowing that it was a very, very involved and intensive effort, but and a necessary one. And it is what really shaped the project design and what you see out there today. So whether you attended a neighborhood meeting, a public meeting, answered any one of a number of surveys that were sent out, and we used every method we could to connect to people in the neighborhoods, hear from them, inform them of where we were in these various projects at different times, and then a constant sort of feedback loop. And so again, a huge thank you to those of you who participated along that along the way. Some of you will recognize this, Mike, you especially, but many of you, this was what I call the before picture. This is 39th and High Street, roughly. And so this is what the condition was there. And there were varying conditions all along the course of this, what is now the 39th channel, but just for this this one spot, that's what it looked like before. And today, that roughly that same area has been transformed into a park amenity and a greenway that will carry an enormous amount of stormwater, which will protect the neighborhood from flooding. And really, it was your collaboration that helped create what is now a new 12-acre recreational greenway. And we certainly can provide, and I think we still have our website up, so you can see various pictures of the finished product all the way up and down the greenway. But today was our sort of official or unofficial, casual opening, and we are just so disappointed that because of the circumstances we all face today with this COVID crisis, that we couldn't have the kind of celebratory opening that we would want to have for a magnificent asset of this type. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that everybody is safe. So we certainly invite you to get over to the Greenway, experience it, let us know what you think. And I am guessing that sometime in the future, we will, even though people will already be using the park, that we will take the opportunity to just celebrate it in a more formal fashion. But we do invite you to get out there, walk along the road. If nothing else during this COVID crisis, being outdoors is a good, safe thing to do, as long as you don't do it in big groups. But get out there with your family, your spouses, your dogs, walk the Greenway, enjoy the playgrounds, and really take advantage of this wonderful asset in the community. So I'll conclude with just a quick summary, and I think it's very broad. There's so many pieces to this, but the project includes a multi-use trail for bikes and pedestrians that stretches from one end of the Greenway, which I believe is roughly Jackson Street, to Franklin Street. There are activity places, plazas, and stopping points along the way with a variety of activities, which include a community garden. There are a couple of nature play areas for families and kids of all ages. There are 6 art pieces that were part of the project that were created by 2 different artists. I think one on the eastern end of it and one on the western end of the Greenway. Really importantly, back to the goal that we had of enhancing connectivity for the neighborhood. The part of the project was to create connections to 40th, the 40th and Colorado Transit Station, and also to the Park Hill neighborhood. And again, of course, the improvement to the water quality and flood protection. And as those of you know, we've already had a couple of rain and snow events that have demonstrated to us that the drainage features are working just as we had intended. And so here's a view of the entire Greenway. And again, some of those amenities I pointed out are indicated along the Greenway in various spots. And you can see the idea was to draw people, you know, if you're in a hurry and you're using it for a mobility corridor, you can get quickly from one end to the other. If you're out for recreation, we hope that you'll stop and explore some of the great features along the Greenway. And that is it. Quick summary. Glad to take any questions that you may have.
Happy, I had one quick question for you. First of all, amazing project from your entire team in the city. Really turned out great. And certainly there was a lot of back and forth, and I appreciate you shouting out the neighbors here who put up with a lot of it. But all in all, I think it was seemingly worth the wait. It's amazing the before and after photos. But you had mentioned about the drainage aspect of it, and that the current storms we had. When you say that they're working, I guess, how frequently do you imagine there'd be standing water in the actual park, or moving water, as it were? Is that like a normal occurrence there, or is this a silly question?
So let me ask Sam Stevens to unmute himself and take that question.
Hi, Mark. My name is Sam Stevens. I'm with our Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. I'm an engineer by trade, so I played a role in the engineering of the project. So in terms of standing water, you won't see the facility is not designed to hold water. You may have some ponding in it right now, just because we've got some erosion control measures in place that basically hold sediment, so it doesn't get downstream. So when we remove those, the channel should flow and it shouldn't hold much, if any, water. But you will see water in it during an event. So it could be anywhere from the small events that we've had in the past summer. I don't think anything was over a 5 or 10 year intensity, but we still had a significant amount of water in there, and fast moving water. So it will have that aspect of it in there, as it is an open channel. We tried to design it to kind of mimic a natural drainage way, if you will. So any of the drainage way in the upland area is what it'll act like. It'll be dry most of the time, but when we get rain, it'll fill up, and it'll fill up quickly. So we ask the community just to be mindful of that. It's a drainage facility, but it's also a recreational facility. So very similar to other trails we have in the city, like Lakewood Gulch has a trail around it that kind of acts in the same way, even though that one's got water in it all the time. Anyways, did that answer your question?
No, I think it did. Yeah. So just to summarize, sort of, as large rains or snows come through there, you'd expect, what, a half dozen times a year would it be moving water through there of any significance?
Yeah. Just whenever there's a rain event or a significant snow melt, you'll see water in there.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have a question from Emily Lapel. Did you raising your hand? Do you want to type in chat or unmute? I'm not sure.
Hi, sorry.
No worries.
Thanks for calling on me. I have a quick question. Full disclosure, I committed some light trespassing a couple of times on the Greenway out of curiosity and for leisure. It's awesome. Thank you so much for creating this amenity for our community. But I do have a question. What will be done to mitigate trash accumulation in the Greenway? So I noticed, one time I went on a walk along it during a snowstorm and there was some lovely water going through the greenery. And then the next day, as I walked along it again, there was some trash. And so I was just wondering what would be done to mitigate that sort of thing from happening. Thanks.
Well, let me start and then turn it over to Sam, who I think can give a more detailed answer to that. And a great question. This project is a collaboration of a number of agencies, and we are working as we speak on the maintenance agreement and who's going to be doing which pieces of maintenance along the Greenway. And so trash collection in most of the Greenway or the trail and the amenity will be the responsibility of the Parks Department. And depending on the size of the event and, whether it's down in the channel there, we may have more, some periodic maintenance from some other agencies in that area. But Sam, if you have more details along, please let us know. And I will add to that, we have a parks maintenance that has a standards about how often facilities are picked up. It may not be every day, and you may experience, particularly after a rain or snow event, a little bit more trash than ordinary. I mean, part of the purpose of the Greenway is to capture drainage and to clean it. And so part of that is picking up trash along the way so that it doesn't end up in the South Platte River. But we are working on those details. And Sam, if you can add any details, that would be helpful.
Yeah, Happy said it just right. It's a collaborative effort in terms of maintaining this thing. It's kind of cool to see all the different city departments that had a say in what we built, and then they also have a say in how we're maintaining it. So like Happy said, the Parks Department plays a big role in picking up the trash. Our wastewater team also plays a role in picking up the trash that will accumulate down in the drainage channel and on some of the structures, the drainage structures and that kind of thing. And after events, we will get a little bit more trash out there. If we get a large enough event, we've designed it to meet Mile High Flood District standards. So what that means is we can utilize funds and pay them to come help us maintain the channel also. So they play a role too. So it's a collaborative effort between the different agencies. For the next 3 years, however, we do have the contractor who built the project, SEMA Construction, will be maintaining the vegetation and doing trash pickup throughout the channel. So they'll kind of be doing that and documenting it so we know how to resource it once we take it over.
And right now we're still learning, how often it's needed, what the needs are. And I will say to you, Emily, and to all of you that, eyes on the park, so to speak, are always helpful. So any feedback or any observations or, help you can give us is very helpful, and we would appreciate it. And we'll forgive you for your intrusions into the premature intrusions into the Greenway.
Thank you. I was just really curious. It's a great amenity. Thank you so much.
You're not the only one.
Do we have any other questions for the Greenway team, either via video or in the chat?
I have one more quick one too, and I'm also guilty of some very minor trespassing, dainty exploration. But the other one I had real quick was, is there an overriding parks policy regarding potential events in the Greenway area? And I know there was some solicitation that came before this board a while back. And is there some overriding policy principle involved or anything particular or unique to this, given its location in a residential area and how that might be handled or adjudicated via park service? Is that where that goes?
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer immediately. I will say that the larger facilities, where we built them specifically for gatherings, will be treated like a number of our other park facilities where permits may be required. In every instance, how we manage those permits is based on the area, the park, the community, the surroundings. And we collaborate with the neighborhood to make sure that there's the right balance. I mean, we want people using the parks, we want people to have fun events there, but we want to also make sure that the park and the community isn't overwhelmed. And so this is not an amenity that's on our sort of our permitted sites list yet. While it is still growing and maturing, we will likely not put it on our public permit available for public permits for a period of time. That said, we're particularly sensitive to the fact that the neighborhood might want to do some things, and we would certainly be opening to figuring out if there are some things we can do with you that are neighborhood based until the Greenway matures to a level where it could be available for more public use.
Okay. So we've got about 2 minutes left on this segment. So if there are any other questions, let me know. I'm just going to read some of these comments real quick. So in the chat, happy/all, the Greenway is really great. Thanks for all the work that went into it. And then there was a question. So do you know, is the John Lewis mural one of the permanent public art pieces, or is that a temporary installation on the Rock Drill building? And Sam Stevens said, it is part of the Rock Drill building. The Greenway art pieces are just starting construction with some foundations that have been recently placed. And so if we have any other questions or any other comment from the city?
No, just again, thank you so much for you endured a lot during the process, and we hope that you'll agree with us that I think, as somebody mentioned earlier, that the product was worth it and that you enjoy it for many years to come.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, next we'll jump into our next presentation on the Tramway-Cole Train, sorry, I can't say that, Tramway-Cole Train Development Project. I believe we have a couple of different representatives here from ULC, and I'm not sure who wants to speak first.
Well, I'll go first, and then we'll make a round of introductions. Yeah, we're here from for the Tramway-Cole Train Development Project. I do want to apologize to everybody. I'm actually in the hospital right now. Been here for about a week. Came through the emergency room last week, and so if you hear beeping in the background, I'm attached to IVs right now, and I'm actually semi-blind in one eye right now, so hopefully only temporarily. But I'm gonna have a hard time looking at the screen. Michael, why don't you kind of kick off an introduction? And we'll go around to whomever is here from our group. Michael, are you there? Did we lose Michael?
No. I'll go ahead and introduce myself well.
Okay.
I'm Mark Marshall. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate at Urban Land Conservancy.
And I'm Michael Mieta, Manager of Neighborhood Relations for Urban Land Conservancy.
And I'm Katie Hulak. I'm the Associate Director of Real Estate at ULC.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Sarah White with Palisade Partners, one of the development partners on this project.
I'm Matt Mueller. Sorry, my camera's not working for some reason. So it's always something these days. I'm the design and construction manager at Palisade Partners.
Hi, I'm Chris Carvel, architect with the team.
And I am Will Krolovic, president of JJK Places. one of the co-developers. I'm going to kick this off with just we've presented to the community now a couple times, I think in January and September. Tonight we're here just to give a quick update and really talk about one specific challenge that the project is facing, and essentially let everybody know what is going on. And then we're going to be actually seeking a letter of support from the board for this particular issue. Just to bring everybody up to speed, can I share, Mike, on this?
Let me stop mine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me. Oh, it says it's still disabled.
Hang on a second. I just need to make you a co-host. Try now.
Okay.
I forgot I turned that on.
Okay. So here's just to give everybody orientation where the project is. It's the pad site that's behind the Tramway Nonprofit Center, Franklin, Gilpin, 35th and 36th Avenue. And that. And here's essentially, right now we're in concept review with the city. We've had one round of that, and we just resubmitted for our second round of comments. Essentially what we're looking at, this is a rectangular lot right here is the pad site. We're looking at a building that occupies about half the site, and then parking will be surface parking in the rear with about 52 spaces. Also part of the project is going to be the renovation of a garage space that's attached to the Tramway Nonprofit Center and what we call the wing building, which is now a vacant, unoccupied building right now. The rest of the Tramway Center will stay the same. That will be untouched. One of the things that Sarah will talk about a little bit is that this whole block is actually is one zone lot. And so what we're going to be talking about tonight actually is relative to the whole lot. Although, again, this is the new development here and the renovation of these two spaces. Just really quickly, we're looking at right now about 60 for sale affordable condo units on 3 floors, and as well as part of the ground floor. Going to have some units, and then about 10 to 12,000 square feet of commercial space between this half of the new building and the existing building. One of the things we're looking at doing is a very robust community engagement process. There's going to be a number of components that as this process goes on, we'll be getting into, but a number of components that we're going to be looking for community input in. We're going to be doing a number of surveys. We're going to be doing some town hall type meetings, some other events. We had pre-COVID, we had wanted to do a lot of in-person events, some street fairs and some other things. We'll see what summer brings with COVID. And for now, things will be more online video conferencing and surveys, electronic surveys, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to turn it over to, I should preface, so the issue we're going to be talking about tonight is parking. Parking is an issue that unfortunately drives every development. And Sarah is going to go into the specifics of the challenges we're facing with parking. Michael right now is going to just give an update on some of our community engagement and our advisory group.
Right. I just want to echo what Will said, that this isn't going to be your normal community engagement. I mean, we are really reaching out to the community, to the neighborhood, to make sure we get input from the neighborhood. And we've established a community advisory committee. I think we have a really great committee consisting of about 8 people. That would be Bithia Coleman from Eastside Unified, Alma Ortega, she's a resident. Mike Dugan is going to be representing the Cole Neighborhood Association. Beverly Grant from Ave Green Marketplace. Maria Estrada from Wyatt Academy across the street. Doretta Tootle from Thelma's Dream. Johnny Williams from Grasp. He's also a tenant of the Tramway. And Lois, let me see my having a problem with this. Okay, she's a resident of Cole. So we're going to be having a meeting this month, our first meeting of the advisory committee. We're really going to be relying on the advisory committee to be reaching out to the neighborhood, keeping them informed, as well as advising us along the way on approaches that we need to use to reach out to the community, as well as we're going to be asking them their advice on certain issues in the development of the affordable condos.
Yeah, we're very excited about this this group. As Michael says, one of the big roles we're looking for the community members of this advisory group is to be kind of our liaison with their network of community members and really get out into the community and bring feedback to our advisory group meetings.
Yeah, I should just real quickly, if for those of you who don't know, the Urban Land Conservancy owns Tramway building, and we're going to be leasing the land to Palisades and JJK, and there'll be a 99-year lease on the property. Urban Land Conservancy, the land trust, we buy land, we hold on to it till we can collaborate with developers to build affordable housing, but we're also involved in nonprofit facilities, which of course Tramway is. We've built some schools and some libraries. So everything we do is for community benefit. And because of the land lease we have, it ensures that the facility will be for the community benefit for perpetuity.
Thanks, Mike. Sarah's going to give some update on or some explanation on the main reason we're here before the neighborhood.
Yep. So hi again, I'm Sarah with Palisade Partners. So as Will said, one of the challenges we're encountering on the project is related to parking. In particular, this project has pretty high parking requirements, and we've got a diverse mix of uses on the block contributing to those requirements. As Will said, we currently have resubmitted for concept review with the city and are awaiting comments. So the numbers that we're going to talk about today may shift around some based on any comments we've received from the city. So for now, we're providing ranges for the relatively small BOA reduction that we hope to ask for. And as Will mentioned, the entire Tramway block is and will remain one zone lot. And essentially what that means is the parking requirements that we're talking about are calculated for the entire block, including the existing uses and the new uses that we're proposing. So we're going to be talking about the parking requirements as a reflection of the entire block. So the site as it exists today currently is meeting its parking requirements with a parking agreement that was established in 1995 with the city and is grandfathered in. And that provides for 118 spaces for the existing Tramway Center. And then as part of the construction of the new building and the 59 residential units, as well as the new tenant finish, we're proposing to add another 80 spaces. So that brings the total parking supply for the block to 198 parking spaces. In addition to the requirements here, we commissioned a study by Walker Parking Consultants, and we have Mallory from Walker representing them tonight to help answer any technical questions that might come up if they do. And so what they've done is, since there is a mix of uses on the block, They've done a study to tell us what the different peak times are for uses. So one of the benefits for parking that a mixed use site can do is that generally residential uses have a different peak demand for parking than commercial or office uses. And that can provide some efficiency when you're looking at shared parking resources. So Walker put together a study using industry standards and ratios to determine really what that peak parking demand for the entire block would look like in reality. And they determined that that would be about 180 spaces would be kind of the peak demand for parking for the entire block. So that is, we're exceeding that in what we propose to provide right now. So a reminder that we're providing 198 spaces. And the study that we did is indicating that the peak demand would be about 180. However, city zoning has a higher requirement than that. And when you're looking at the block in full, they would require approximately 211 spaces. And again, all of these numbers could shift a couple spaces here or there, just depending on some of the city's interpretations and some of the final uses, but we're doing our best guesses here. So right now, the city zoning is about 31 spaces more than what we anticipate the peak demand would require. So given all of that, the city requirement of 211 and us providing 198 as of right now, we're looking at a reduction request of about 13 to 21 spaces. So 13 is the difference between that 211 and 198. Put about a range in here again for a little shift. So putting big picture on that, that's about a 6 to 10% reduction of the overall 211 space requirement from the city. And even if we have to go up to that 10% reduction, that would still be at least 10 spaces more than what our peak parking demand shows would be necessary. So there's still more to come on here. We are anticipating probably getting to the Board of Adjustments in January or February of next year, depending on our concept review timeline. And as Will said, we wanted to come to you guys and hopefully be able to get the RNO support on this. And we're happy to answer any questions.
I'll just add, you know, one of the things we're trying to do is we are supplying at least one unit or one parking space per unit. And we're with the peak on and off demand, we'll end up having both the commercial and the residential covered. So there'll be, we don't anticipate spillover into the neighborhood, which is always the neighborhood concern is street parking going to be used. So we're hopefully providing enough and as the peak study says, more than enough to curtail that sort of thing happening. So open to questions.
There were a couple questions that came in via chat when you were talking about the advisory committee, and I'll give people a chance to think about the parking. So is the advisory committee meeting open to the public, I'm assuming the one that's coming up in November?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're looking to have every meeting open to the public. You know, the advisory members will be quote unquote voting members, but we want to hear feedback from anybody.
Great. And then is the advisory committee doing outreach on parking, regarding parking?
And by outreach, getting, I mean, well I'm not sure interpreting what the outreach.
I think I'll have Sandy clarify her question if you want to hop in. Yeah. Sandy, you're on mute.
The first question was, is it open? And if it's open, are you sending a link to the neighborhood association? Is it a Zoom meeting? Okay, so you'll send that meeting to Mike.
Yeah, we'll go through Mike and have that sent out to everybody. Yep.
Date and time and everything. And
exactly.
And secondly, with the advisory committee, what is it charged to do? I mean, is it just doing outreach for the people in that area concerning parking, or what is the charge on that group?
Sure. Their main role, well, they have a number of roles. They'll kind of be the liaison or representatives of the community we tried to get a very diverse group of people that represent a lot of different constituencies and populations in the community. So in a way, the advisory group is kind of a microcosm of the whole community. But then they'll also be charged with essentially taking information back, updates to the community through their networks, and gathering feedback that they can then bring back to the community, the advisory group meetings of what community input is. We'll still be coming to the RNO meetings to do these. We'll, as I say, we're looking at doing a couple probably bigger town hall type meetings, update meetings once we get further into the design process. But yeah, the advisory group is kind of our link to all of you in the neighborhood.
I see. So, for example, Mike would be, Mike would be the yes, Mike. Hi.
Hi. We will be asking the advisory committee for input on certain issues concerning the construction of the building. Now, there are certain things that we cannot change, but there, for instance, the commercial. What does the neighborhood want in the commercial? What kind of nonprofits do they want there? What kind of for business do they want there? We really want the input from the community to really say what's going to go in that commercial. We might even, and I would leave this to Chris, the architect, but in terms of the way the building looks, some kind of materials that'll be used and stuff. There'll be input from the community on that. And of course, the cost of things really is a main issue, but we will be asking for input.
Okay, thank you. That's clear.
You're on mute, Chris.
There you go.
No, you're back on mute again. There.
Okay. Yeah, I would add to what Michael is saying. I think Will, from the very beginning, there's been a lot of work on what kinds of tenants would want to be in the existing space, and the renovation of the very historic and very unusual interior space of the existing tramway building. Really fabulous inside with over 20-foot high ceilings, bow trusses, exposed windows. Would love to be able to open the building up to the Paseo and connect it to the other potential retail spaces on the ground floor of the new building. So it really, we kind of think of this as really a hub, or envision this as something as a central place for the neighborhood. And obviously, if it's going to be that, we need the neighborhood heavily involved in the tenants that would go into those two primary spaces. And that will have a lot of influence on the design of both the existing, on that whole end of the new building. So I think that's something that's really important. The other piece that I think is very important is maybe helping educate the community on what you're doing for affordable housing and what kinds of units are going to be in the building, and what kind of tenants are going to be interested in buying units in this building, because of at least the numbers that you all have talked about is going to be very impressive and very affordable, and very much hopefully will be a big contributor to housing in the neighborhood.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions?
I do have a question here in the chat. So is there a Spanish-speaking person on the committee, the advisory committee? Given that this portion of the neighborhood has a higher Latinx population, will any flyers or marketing materials be printed in both languages?
Yes and yes.
Great.
Yeah, there are a couple of people on the committee who speak Spanish. And we're planning on all marketing materials to be in at least bilingual, Spanish and English, and maybe even a couple other languages, depending on, we're actually trying to do some research on some of the area schools as to what other languages might be necessary and appropriate for the Cole neighborhood.
Great. And another one just came in from the chat again. What is the AMI requirement on the units for sale?
Still to be determined. Right now we're shooting for, I should say, we've actually got still about $1 million funding gap on this project to make it work. And that's underwriting it at 70% AMI for family size units, 2 and 3 bedroom units, and then smaller units will be underwritten or being underwritten at a little higher AMI, but they're still affordable because of the size.
Great.
I must say that we're trying the best we can to lower that level of affordability, get it lower. We want to get it as low as we can. So we're not going to leave any rock unturned in trying to get more money from the different sources to get that AMI as low as we can. Now, a lot of people, in fact, the meeting we just had, somebody brought up LIHTC as being able to bring that down, but this is a for sale development. So low income housing tax credits can't be used for this, but we really hope the community can go to the city and put a little bit of friendly pressure for them to give more money on the project so more people can afford it. Because in reality, there's one affordable for sale condo project in development now, another one in the pipeline. So there aren't many of these type of projects going on in Denver. And we really need for sale affordable housing so we can help the community start to build some wealth.
Yeah. Just to give you a little illustration, most rental affordable housing developments have upwards of 6 to 8 levels of financing or tranches or layers in their capital stack. For sale housing, this is the reason most people aren't building for sale multifamily affordable housing, because we'll probably end up having upwards of 10 to 12 different funding sources by the time we're done with this project. It's very complicated, and we're knocking on a lot of doors to try to make the numbers work.
I had a question, Mike. Thanks, you guys, for it sounds like a great project. Really interesting, great use of the space. Maybe I missed some of this in the prior things, but is this kind of a couple questions here? I'll try to not just rattle them off real quick. Is this a public-private partnership was my first question. The second one was, you guys talked about the affordability criteria. You were mentioning like 70% of, can you guys translate that, what that looks like in terms of what the approximate criteria would be, just in a general sense, because that's unfamiliar language to me. And then the last question was about, is the project as it stands now contingent upon this getting the adjustment? Is there design edits that could be made to accommodate whatever the city requirements are?
Could you repeat the third question?
It says is what you're asking for from the neighborhood association, and is that is the project contingent, or is this?
Oh, okay.
If you don't get what you need, are you guys going to go back into design, or why? In other words, why is this so important to make the numbers work for you guys, or the design to work? I guess
sure. And let's start off in reverse order, I guess. What we're here tonight is a parking, getting support for a parking variance. This is actually a relatively small parcel of land that's being developed, about 36,000 square feet. And so trying to squeeze both a building that works functionally, that's double loaded corridors and is efficient, as Chris, our architect, would tell you, and getting parking is very difficult. So we have to have all parking on site for one. So because it's a limited size parcel, if we don't get the variance, we'll have to go back to the drawing board, but it's going to be very hard to do this project without getting a variance. And that's a simple fact. As far
Can I
as
jump in real quick, Will, to help answer that third question a little bit more?
Yeah.
So Mark, I think your question also was related to the funding gap that was mentioned. And we are looking at all avenues right now to try and close that, both from an increasing subsidy standpoint from wherever we can. And we are also still very much in conceptual design. So we are still looking at ways to save money on the design side as well. So it's still adjusting on both sides. And that's why Will mentioned any help from the public to get some pressure to increase the subsidies will help. And then we're still doing everything we can on our side to also decrease costs as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. As far as the AMI levels, I don't have the numbers right in front of me.
Real quick on that one, Will. I'll answer on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
70% of the area median income for a family of four is roughly $60,000, $62,000 for a family of four. So
that's the household income too, not just one person. The combined income. Yeah.
Exactly.
So whoever bought it couldn't exceed that amount in income in order to be eligible to buy it. Is that correct?
No. Well, that's the bottom. The top is 80%. We go up to 80%. We wanted to provide a window of affordability.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Sarah, do you mind if I just add really quickly on the parking question as well? My name is Mallory Baker. I work with Walker Consultants. We're working with Palisade Partners specifically on the technical side to determine an appropriate parking supply for this development. And I wanted to just emphasize that the variance that is being sought for this project is an attempt to right-size the infrastructure. So an attempt to build the appropriate amount of parking to accommodate demand. The variance request isn't to undersize parking or undersize that parking resource so that demand would flow out into the neighborhood and into the community. So they brought Walker on to determine that exact right number, and that is the 180 supply that Sarah mentioned, which was our recommendation. Now they're building a little bit over that, and that's only because they want to make sure that there's no chance that spillover might occur. So again, if the variance is granted, it will ensure that the parking infrastructure is right-sized, and also that there's not underutilized, massive amounts of underutilized or even unutilized parking in your community, which can be just as much of a dearth on a neighborhood as spillover parking.
Thanks, Mallory. That's a very good point. And then Mark, you had asked whether there's a public-private partnership, which is somewhat a loaded term because everybody defines that differently. It is public-private in the sense that it's a private development. The co-developers are private developers. We're partnering with a nonprofit organization, Urban Land Conservancy, and then we'll be getting subsidies from public sources like the city, the state, other sources. So in that sense, there's many, as I said, many of the funding levels, the funding tranches or funding layers will be coming from different sources. They're both public and private.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And just as a housekeeping measure, we are now past 7:30, so I try and keep these meetings to about an hour. Obviously, we can go past if we need to, but if there are any other questions or comments, I'd kind of like to wrap up. And I know we've got an announcement waiting as well. So just kind of giving that, chime in the bell, basically.
Anything else? No.
No, I'm not seeing anything.
And one of the things we are starting to work on a website for this project, so that actually will be out there when that goes live, probably sometime in December or January. We'll be having updates on that regularly and also being able to take questions kind of on an ongoing basis. So.
Great, and we'll be sure to have you back whenever you'd like to attend the RNO meetings. So happy to have you.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Will, I hope you feel better, brother. Hang in there.
Yeah,
man.
please do.
Thank you.
I'm sure
Thank
everyone
you very
wishes you the
much.
best.
Thanks.
All right, well, thank you all. And so now we're going to jump to open mic. I believe we have Beth Glandon waiting with Discover Denver, Historic Denver.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs
Yes.
up.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks so much for letting me crash your meeting. This is kind of an impromptu announcement, but my name is Beth Glandon. I'm with Historic Denver, and I work with a project called Discover Denver. We have just started working in the Cole neighborhood, so I thought it would be a good thing to just kind of come and answer any questions that anybody might have. Discover Denver is a citywide building survey, and our goal is truly to document in some form or fashion every building in the city and county of Denver over the next 10 years or so. We use volunteers to do our work, and we use special software on handheld tablets to take photos of buildings. We do everything from the public right of way. We document how buildings have changed over time, and for a small number of buildings in every neighborhood, we also research the history. And that's where you guys come in, because we think that, you know, most of the city's history lives in people's attics or in the neighbors' brains, right? So we're always looking for input from neighbors about what are those buildings that are important to you? What do you know about the history of your neighborhood that maybe you could share with us, and we can help communicate to the rest of the city what makes Cole special. So we have about 60 volunteers that help us out with our project. We're out in your neighborhood 3 days a week, generally Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So if you see a group working together, going block to block, that is who they are. They will all be carrying cards that identify who they are and that they're part of our project, and wearing these big, giant, dorky pins that have our project name on them. So the goal really of the project is to identify those buildings throughout the city that have some sort of significance. That might be architectural, it might be historical, it might be cultural. So that's our project in a nutshell. I know you guys we're at the end of your meeting. So I would take any questions that you might have at this point.
Just a comment, what a cool project. How awesome is that? I heard there's this place called, it used to be called the High Street Speakeasy. Mike knows something about it. I heard it's haunted.
Yeah, Beth, I've been meaning to contact you. I remember talking to you back in September briefly over email.
Right.
So I've got a ton of information on that building and among other buildings in the neighborhood. So how long is this survey taking place in Cole?
So we will probably be there through the end of the year, at least, maybe bleeding into January. We move fairly quickly as far as our volunteers actually being in the neighborhood, but our research will go on beyond that.
Great. Okay.
So kind of the culmination is that we put together a giant survey report that has a history of the neighborhood, talks about all the cool stuff that we found. So that will be publicly available once that is all complete.
Is there
We have your contact?
Other
Will you
questions?
put your email in the chat, Beth?
I will, yeah.
I just want to point out that some of the nerds will never leave your neighborhood. Stuck with me, neighbors.
Oh, man.
I'm here to stay too, so.
Let's see, I'm trying to figure out, sorry, I'm kind of a Zoom idiot. So.
No worries.
Or maybe Mike, you can grab the information and
Yeah, I can paste it in there. And do we have any other, before I wrap up officially, any other open mic announcements this evening? No? Okay. Well, here, I'm going to paste Beth's email in. Give me 1 second to pull it up.
I got it, Mike. I
So
started
actually,
jumping in
Okay.
there.
just shared everything.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, then we're adjourned. Thank you all for attending. We will likely have a meeting in December. Normally we have our holiday party, but that's obviously not happening this year with COVID. So I'll host another Zoom meeting. I'm not sure who the presenters will be, but I'll make sure the info gets out and hopefully we'll have something interesting. So, and for now, stay safe. Good seeing you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.